Hi, today I'm going to be talking about tiling window managers. Tiling window managers are sort of what is on the title, but if you don't understand a lot of the terminology, that might not mean a lot to you. Well, for starters, let's explain what a window manager is. A window manager is the thing on your computer that manages windows. It's right in the title. So that might be something like on Windows, how you're able to move windows around the screen and there's a title bar that gets drawn on all of them. That's done by Windows' Window Manager. And there are different types of window managers. You'll pretty much only be familiar with what are called stacking window managers, which is what's used by pretty much every system out there. Windows, Mac OS, most Linux systems. But today we're going to be talking about tiling window managers, which are a specific kind of window manager that do something really cool. They have a bit of a learning curve. Once you get used to them, they can be really effective in improving your workflow. If you have a workflow that works well with them. They don't work for everyone, but I think they're pretty neat. So to show you what they do, I'll just demonstrate it. So I'm going to open my file browser and press enter, and it fills the entire screen, except for some gaps around the edges that I've configured. Okay, that might not seem too impressive. I've just made a window full screen. But what happens when I open a web browser? It splits the screen in half, so you can see all of them equally. That's pretty cool. And then if I open another one, it opens down there, and I can just keep opening them, and they'll tile down to be smaller and smaller. This is how I've configured mine, but other tiling window managers work slightly differently. I'm using Sway, which is one window manager that I like, but there are other ones out there like BSPWM, i3, DWM. All of them work slightly differently, but they operate on the same principle, that we can have windows that tile next to each other, and then we can make maximum use of the space on our screen. So that's the basics of it, but it has a few other cool features. So as you might have noticed, if we have a lot of things going on, it doesn't really make much sense to have them all visible at the same time. Normally in like a stacking window manager that you might be more used to, you would just minimize a window or you'd have it in the background or something, but with a tiling window manager, everything is just front and center. So how do we get around this? Well, we use what are called workspaces. As you can see in the top corner here, currently I have two workspaces, 1 and 10. If I use the keyboard shortcut to switch to 10, you can see this is the program that I'm using to record this right now, but we can use workspaces like this. So let's say I want to move this web browser to a different workspace so I can still access it, but it's not currently visible. Well, there's a keyboard shortcut for that. In this case, it's Super Shift 2 to move to workspace 2. So now we can see workspace 1, where I have my file manager. It's full screened. And now if I use Super 2, I'm in the one with the web browser. And you can see up here, that's where they are. So I can click on it too, but it's faster to use the shortcut. So you can do things like this, where maybe I'll have 3 things open here. I'll be running a few different things. I'll be working on something here, and then I'll have like a web browser open here I can check. I'll open a third one, maybe open up Spotify. And you can see how, oh, is that not where loading? Well, oh well. You can see how this could, if once you get used to it, it really helps your workflow because you have everything visible at the same time. You don't have a ton of things minimized that need to work through. You don't need to like Alt-Tab to find where everything is. Everything is fully visible. And also, it's extremely configurable. And most tiling window managers, there is a bit of a learning curve, admittedly, but it is super cool once you get used to it. So instead of having a graphical thing where you configure it with like buttons and stuff, tiling window managers are usually configured through a config file, which is a text file that has all the options. So I'm going to show you my config file. It's in here. And you can see here, I have all of these things that I have set. Some of this was here by default and some of that I've added myself. So if I go to the top here, you can see here on this line, I have said to when I use my menu key binding to launch a Wofi with these options. And Wofi is this launcher that I used here where I can launch all my applications. And you can see here, I have set my wallpaper. I'm just telling it to output a background and fill the screen with it, and it's located in this path right here in my pictures folder. We can see further down, I have added these for my audio control keys. So on my laptop, I have the volume up and volume down buttons. I have to manually set those up because they're not enabled by default. So right here I have, I'm bind sim, which is telling it when I press a key to do something. When I press the mute key to execute the script that I wrote, that toggles my volume muted and unmuted. And then I have the same thing for lowering and raising volume. I'm just executing that same script. And then I have the same for brightness keys. It does the same thing. And then here I have all my colors, which are, in this case, pretty much just the borders that are around the window that you can see here. And then you can see I've set up a couple other options. I have a network manager applet, which just lets me configure my networks. I have auto tiling, which changes how the tiling works a little bit, but that's not too important for right now. And you can see that this file has a ton of different things, and I can just add in whatever I want. If I find some cool option someone else has, I can just look at their config file, copy it, and then have that on my machine. So there's a really interesting element of community in there where people are constantly sharing their configurations, and you can just use their configurations because it's all just a text file. You don't need to copy someone's whatever they've clicked in an options menu. And one of the coolest places where people do that is this subreddit called r/Unix porn. I know the name, it's pretty yikesy, but you know what? It's a pretty great subreddit where we can see people, they're all sharing their configurations. Not all of these are tiling window managers, but a lot of them are. We can see this person is sharing their setup, this person is sharing their setup, and we can see, so if I find, oh, I like this person's setup, I like how it's all black and white or whatever. Usually in the comments, we can see someone has posted, here, they have information about everything in their system, and oftentimes, although it doesn't look like in this one, they'll have links to a page on GitHub where they host their .dot files, which is just another word for configuration files. Mine, you can find right here. I will have a link to that in the description of this video. If you want to look at mine, maybe copy them. It's pretty basic, but I think it's pretty neat. We can see here is everything. So for example, if I wanted to look at that same config file we were just looking at earlier, it's under sway.config, config, and here you go. So if someone wanted to say, thought, hey, that's a pretty cool blue that you have that surrounds your window, then they can just go, oh, here are all the colors, copy and paste that into my file, and then there, they have it. And that's pretty much tiling window managers. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of interesting things. In a lot of cases, it takes way too much time to configure, and it's only for people who like really care about this stuff. But if you're that kind of person, they're really interesting. So I've hoped you've enjoyed this short demonstration of tiling window managers, and I hope if you're interested, you'll check them out for yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.